evening, everyone. My name is Maria Etherton, and I would like to welcome you as the Department of Strategy and Engagement to welcome you to our first Parent University of the 25-26 school year. This evening, we are kicking off our Parent University with Understanding Autism. It is the first of 7 sessions in a series that will be presented by Monica Knight, in-home trainer from Special Student Services. If you have family, friends, or neighbors that could not join us this evening, I want to let you know that this session will be recorded and available for future viewing in the RISD Parent University Video Library that can be accessed on the risd.org website. After the session is complete, you will receive an email with resources and a link to a Google form to ask questions or share comments with the presenter. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Monica, who is going to share her screen with us.
Welcome to our Parent University presentation on Understanding Autism. My name is Monica Knight, and I'm so glad that you've joined us today. I know you're carving out time for your busy schedules, so I truly appreciate it. Here at Richardson ISD, our motto is Dream Big, Every Child, Every Teacher, Every Leader, Every Day, and we are committed to empowering and engaging parents to support our students. So let's get started. For those of you who may be new, Parent University is designed to empower and engage parents by providing practical resources. Our goal is to strengthen the partnership between Richardson ISD and our families to enhance overall student achievement and well-being. This year, we're especially excited to share our autism series with you, and this first session is just the beginning. The series will be held on the 3rd Thursday of each month, except for October, when it will be on the 4th Thursday, and April, when it will be on the 5th Thursday. In order to cover both April and May, we look forward to seeing you at our future sessions. So I'd like to share a little bit about myself. I began my educational career in early childhood 22 years ago, which has given me a strong foundation to working with young learners. In 2015, I transitioned into special education here at Richardson ISD, where I taught elementary inclusion classes. And for the past 5 years, my work has focused on a role that I'm truly passionate about, providing autism education for parents. It's been incredibly rewarding to connect with families and empower them to support their children's learning at home and in the community. Let's review our goals today. By the end of this hour, you will be able to understand the definitions of autism, including the key difference between medical diagnosis and a special education disability identification, gain insight into general characteristics of autism, including both strengths and differences, learn about the impact of autism and discover ways you can support your student at home or in the community, and know how to access additional information and resources regarding autism. To begin, I want to show you a short video titled Amazing Things Happen. Please take a moment and watch.
We are all different, and that's wonderful. Some differences are easy to see. Height, hairstyle, eye color, and so on. Other differences can't be seen. Our favorite foods, fears, or special skills. Interestingly, the way we see the world is also different. For instance, what do you see in this drawing? Most people see a duck, but some of you might have seen a rabbit. Whichever you saw, you are correct. This is just a trick drawing to show you that all brains work differently. The brain is your body's computer. It works differently for all of us and controls how you learn. That's why we are all good at different things. How you feel, which is why we all feel different emotions. And how you communicate. Sometimes the brain is connected in such a way it affects senses and how we perceive and read situations and interactions. This is known as autism. Many people have autism, so it's likely you already know someone who is autistic. And for this reason, it's useful to know a little bit about autism. The special wiring inside an autistic brain can sometimes make the person good at tasks we may find difficult, such as mathematics, drawing, or music. It can also do the opposite, and activities we find too easy are incredibly difficult to them, such as making friends. The senses constantly send information to your brain about your surroundings and other people. However, when a person's brain and its senses don't communicate well, the brain can become overwhelmed and confused, affecting how they see the world. Picture yourself walking down the street. This is how an autistic brain may experience the same walk. Scary, isn't it? Sadly, in many cases, the person can't say out loud how they feel. So even though there's chaos going on in their heads, they seem okay on the outside, unable to ask for help. We will develop behaviors to help us feel calm in uncomfortable situations. We may look away, hug ourselves, chew our fingernails, fidget, bite our lips, and so on. Equally, autistic people develop behaviors that help them cope with these intense moments. These actions may seem unusual, but they're just their way to feel calm. When they happen, it means they are having a hard time. The kind thing to do is not to give them an even harder time by getting cross, ignoring them, or mocking them. Remember, just because a PlayStation can't read an Xbox game, it doesn't mean it's broken. People with autism need friends who are willing to take the time to know them. With good communication and plenty of patience, everyone would be better off. People with autism are not ill or broken. They simply have a unique view of the world. And with a little support from their friends, they might just be able to share that view with us. Autism can make amazing things happen.
I love that video and how it does such an amazing job of showing that a person with autism is so much more than their diagnosis. Remembering that amazing things can happen with autism. Now, I would like to dive into some statistics for you. According to the CDC 2022 data, about 1 in 31 children in the US has autism, and 3.2 children in the US are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. There's a higher prevalence in boys who are diagnosed 3.4 times more often than girls. This discrepancy is at least partially due to the difficulty in identifying autism in girls using established evaluations, and progress is being made in that area. Additionally, it's estimated that 1 in 45 adults in the US has autism. On a global scale, it's estimated that 1 in 100 children around the world are diagnosed, with an estimated 60 million people worldwide having autism. So it's probably that everybody knows somebody with autism, whether they know it or not. It's important to understand the different definitions and scopes of autism. There are two primary ways autism is defined. First, we have the medical diagnosis on the left, which is a licensed physician or a psychologist who makes this medical diagnosis. This diagnosis is known as Autism Spectrum Disorder, or ASD, and is based on the criteria in the Diagnostician and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or for short, the DSM-5. On the right, secondly, we have the educational identification of autism. This identification is made by a multidisciplinary school evaluation team and is based on the Individuals with Disability Education Act of 2004, or IDEA. The special education eligibility determination is required for students to access individual education services and accommodations within the public school. Let's take a look at the medical criteria from the DSM-5. A medical diagnosis of ASD requires persistent deficits in social communication and social interaction. This includes challenges in social emotional skills, nonverbal communicative behaviors, and developing and understanding relationships. It also includes restricted, repetitive patterns of behavior, interest, or activities. This is a clinical perspective, but it's helpful to see how it connects to and overlaps with the educational definition. So, from an educational perspective, autism is defined as a developmental disability that significantly affects verbal communication, nonverbal communication, and social interaction. So this definition also indicates other associated characteristics that often include engaging in repetitive activities and stereotyped movements, resistant to change in daily routines, and unusual responses to sensory experiences. It's important to understand that to be eligible for special education interventions or an IEP, a student must be identified with autism and must demonstrate a need for specially designed instruction. Your student may be medically diagnosed with autism, but not demonstrate a need for special education services within the school day. This brings us to a very important quote by Dr. Stephen Shore. When you have met one person with autism, you have met one person with autism. This quote reminds us that autism is a spectrum and every individual is unique. The way it presents itself can be different for everyone, which is why it's so important to get to know each person as an individual. So let's explore autism and the educational definition. Since we're a school district and we're approaching autism through an educational lens, it's important to use the educational definition to frame our learning. While the formal definition can sound a bit technical, let's think about what this looks like in the classroom or at home. The educational definition focuses on a student's communication, nonverbal skills, and social interaction that are impacted. This is what we see in the way they play with others, express their needs, or handle changes in their daily schedule. We may also see characteristics like repetitive activities, which can be anything from special interest in trains to a specific routine that they must follow. These are all parts of the unique way a student with autism experiences the world and are key areas where we can provide support. When it comes to verbal communication, an individual with autism may have little to no verbal communication, or it may be delayed. They might express themselves through patterned or repetitive speech, such as echolalia, which is repeating words or phrases they've heard from others. They might also use idiosyncratic phrases, which are creative or individualized language, like referring to leg sleeves or milk as cereal water. Nonverbal communication differences can include difficulty with initiating or maintaining eye contact. They may also have trouble noticing or understanding body language and gestures of others, as well as paying attention to nonverbal cues and facial expressions. Think about how much information we get from a simple nod or a furrowed brow. These are things that might be difficult for an individual with autism to process. Some of the examples below are voice, articulation, facial expressions, gestures, body language. Social interaction differences is also something that someone on the autism spectrum may have differences with. This includes difficulty with back and forth conversation, sharing interests and feelings, and starting or continuing interactions with others. It can also involve trouble adapting behavior to different environments or social expectations, like when to act one way at a birthday party or how to act one way in the classroom. These environments or social expectations with decreased interest and peer relations and also making friends is difficult as well. Students may also want to play or be by themselves instead of joining a group or doing group work. You might also see restricted or fixated interests that are highly intense or focused. This could mean a strong attachment to unusual objects or focusing on a specific interest like dinosaurs, trains, or characters from a show or a book. There might also be repetitive or stereotypical movements, such as flapping arms, clapping hands, rocking, or head nodding. These movements are often referred to as stimming or self-stimulatory behavior. These movements may also be less observable as your child learns to use strategies to support their need to stim. Additionally, you might observe repetitive object use like lining up toys, flipping, or spinning objects. Another characteristic is an insistent or sameness and an inflexible adherence to routines. This can lead to distress from small changes or difficulty with transitions. A person might feel the need to take the same route every time they travel or eat the same food every day. Or a person may have a real upset if you change their schedule or put in an extra activity that wasn't planned. But these routines provide a sense of predictability and safety. Unusual responses to sensory experiences can be categorized as either hyperreactivity or hyporeactivity. Hyperreactivity is a sensitivity to sensory input, where they might be bothered by lights, sounds, or texture, or feel overstimulated in a crowded, noisy environments. Hyporeactivity is a decreased response where they might have a higher tolerance for pain or temperature, or engage in sensory-seeking behaviors like smelling or touching unusual items. Excuse me. You might also notice an unusual interest in sensory aspects of their environment, like a visual fascination with lights or heightened awareness to environmental noises, or running their hand down the wall while they're walking down the hallway or throughout the house. This is the iceberg of autism. The top of the iceberg is what we see, the behaviors, but the underneath surface is what's causing those behaviors. We need to remember that many behaviors we see are a result of what a person is feeling internally. The visible behavior is only the tip of the iceberg. When we dig deeper to understand the root cause of the behavior, that's where we can provide the appropriate support that our student needs to bridge the gap between their behavior and their feelings. And this brings me to our secondary characteristics. In response to feeling overwhelmed, out of control, frustrated, or afraid, a person with autism might show a variety of secondary characteristics. This can include demonstrating emotional outburst or what we may describe as temper tantrums, demonstrating aggressive vocal or verbal aggression, eloping or running away from a situation, or showing aggressive or destructive behaviors. They might also increase their stereotypical behaviors or seek out familiar routines, environments, and objects to feel a sense of control. The world needs all kinds of minds. This is a quote from Temple Grandin. She's a renowned author and advocate of autism. This highlights that autism isn't just about challenges, it's also the unique strengths and contributions. These are some of the strengths of autism that I wanted to highlight. And what are those strengths? Individuals with autism often have a deep knowledge in their area of interest, excellent long-term memory, and a strong ability to focus. They're often methodical, observant, resilient, creative, and demonstrate a high degree of integrity. These are all incredible qualities that we should recognize and celebrate. Take a moment and think about your students' strengths. I encourage you to write them down and celebrate them throughout this journey. The next area of our presentation is going to be some parent tips. Actually, early education and early intervention before we get to those parent tips. So early identification of autism is going to be powerful. It allows for children to be provided with early intervention. Autism is typically diagnosed during early childhood when parents notice difficulties with communication, social, and play skills. This options for identification and diagnosis include the medical and educational pathways. A medical diagnosis may have a cost and can involve looking at developmental milestones. However, a special education evaluation within the public school system is available at no cost and can be assessed through the following options. Early child intervention, which is called ECI, provides evaluations and services for infants to 3 years old. In Richardson, the Warren Center is our ECI provider. Once a child turns 3 years old, the local school district is responsible for evaluation and service provision through special education as described in the Child Find legal guidance. Children who are 3 to 5 years old and not yet enrolled in school can still be evaluated through Richardson ISD Child Find program. Children who are enrolled in school pre-K through 12 can be evaluated by their campus multidisciplinary team. So research is consistently showing that early intervention provides the biggest outcomes for our individuals with autism. And if you're interested in some of those centers that we talked about, you'll receive some resources afterwards. So moving on to our parent tips. Let's talk about some practical tips for helping your child at home. I know this is probably something that many of you are eager to hear, and these strategies can make a big difference in your daily lives. So let's talk about some things that you can have some actionable tips. So the most important thing is to understand and celebrate your child. Be curious and explore what they might be trying to communicate. Another key tip is to establish routines and predictability, starting with a visual schedule. This provides a sense of safety and comfort while also giving your child an opportunity to know what's coming next and what the expectations are of the day. And when you're understanding your child, understanding what their likes and dislikes are is something to keep in your back pocket always. The next thing helping your child is communicating thoughtfully. When we communicate, let's be thoughtful in how we're communicating. So gain your child's attention before giving directions. This may be tapping them on the shoulder, making sure that the TV's turned off, and tell them what you want them to do instead of what you don't want them to do. For example, I want you to put your shoes on, not I stop watching TV. Also, and simplify your language by keeping directions short and to the point. If you have multiple caregivers in your home, it's also very important that all caregivers are using the same vocabulary and directives so your child doesn't get confused. Your child's teacher can share with you the language that they're using in the classroom as well. This way, the home and school can be on the same page. When supporting your child at home, it's important to work with your child's teacher and other caregivers to provide the same strategies across each environment. You may begin by creating a behavior journal, by observing patterns or what happened right before a behavior occurred, during the behavior, and after the behavior. Keep in mind, you may also want to document your response as well. This will begin to help you gather information to help you process through the function or the root cause of the behavior. This takes time and empathy. So remember to connect with your child before you try to correct your child. We can't emphasize this enough that teamwork makes the dream work. It takes a big team, and we're all here to support. And so I want to encourage you to connect with your students' educational team on their campus. Ask them what's working at school so that you can use the same strategies and items at home, and also share what's working well with you at home. Work together to identify reinforcement options based on your students' interest and favorite things. So for example, if your child has a favorite show or enjoys like a favorite activity for positive reinforcement or something that you know helps them calm down, this is something good to share with all of the team members. And keep in mind that interests may change consistently, so it's important to know what your child likes and dislikes as you move through this journey. And this is also an opportunity for you to connect with the teacher about using a visual schedule or some other visuals that your child may be demonstrating some mastery at school. Your teacher can help you bring some of those items into your home so you can start using visual schedules and some other things that your students using at school. And so this brings us to our optimistic closure.
Thank you, Monica. You're amazing. I think that all the information that you shared with us was phenomenal. I want to invite everyone to reflect personally on the session that you just experienced. This is a fun way by looking at the different suits of the card, the different symbols on the cards. For hearts, what is something from the heart? How did you feel during this presentation? What did it mean to you? Clubs, things that grew, maybe new ideas, new thoughts, or a new point of view. Diamonds, gems that last forever. What are some of the gems of wisdom that you gathered from Monica during her presentation? Spades, they're used to dig in the garden. What new ideas were planted or what was dug up for you during the presentation? At this time, we would like to invite everyone to please join us for the exit survey. You're welcome to use your phones or use the link below the phone. You can type it into your web browser. While you're doing that, I also want to remind you that the second session of the series that Monica is presenting for us, Understanding Autism Communication, is our next Parent University, and it will be on October 23rd. Keep an eye out in the Richardson community and the RISD community news for the opportunity to register for this event on October 23rd. I do want to remind you that after this session is complete, you'll be getting an email with the resources and a link to a Google form to be able to ask questions or share comments with Monica. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and we hope you have a wonderful evening.